obviously, Ayo, you were on the show with Flawless, so we've kind of touched base on this. But since Jeff and Kels, we haven't had a show since then. Obviously, the big talking point of this week as well, just kind of going into this, is racism in football. I feel like it's something that needs to be addressed. It's been happening quite a lot now. I'm not sure if it's just because of social media, in the sense that social media has kind of replaced that platform. People are not in stadiums anymore. People are not at bars, so people are now have the license to say whatever they can because there's no repercussions for it, or there's no one there to knock them out if you are at a bar. So yeah, obviously that's been huge. You guys being Arsenal fans, the biggest incident happened 2 weeks ago during the Europa League when Slavia Prague, one of the players actually was racially abusive to one of the Arsenal players. So that was definitely huge. And we had kind of talked about what should be UEFA's point of action to that. Because everyone like Wilfred Zaha said, he doesn't want to be taking the knee during games. And now Thierry Henry has said that he's going off all social media platforms till the bigger organizations actually, take a bigger stand to this. So what do you guys think? I'll go with Jeff first, just because we already kind of talked about this. So what do you think should be done? Obviously, especially in the case of Arsenal, whereby that was from a player and not from the fan base. What do you think UEFA should do better to ensure that we can curb racism? Obviously, it can never leave society, but we can have a safe space whereby we should not be dealing with racism in football in general. So
I think, I don't know if aren't we playing Slavia Prague in the next leg? Wasn't the racial abuse happen before?
Oh yeah,
so we're trying to get them bound now.
It was
right.
Yeah.
So and the fan base actually did do something at the end with that massive banner saying, I'm not going to repeat it here, but no, I don't want to give them any sort of virtual clout, if you call it that. It was just, to be honest, it's like you said it, and I'll be quick. You said it. There isn't there's an expectation that racism will end, let alone in our lifetime. It goes both ways in all the multiple ways of different races. But a level of respect for what sports has always had that I've loved is having a respect for the opposition, be it whether you're on the bench, you're in the stands, you're on the bench, or you're out there on the field or the court. And for me, I think what Henry said is I echo that. There hasn't been any move. I mean, but it's crazy though, right? FIFA has the World Cup qualifiers. And I'm not going to talk about the race about that stuff right now, because I just want to point out something that's crazy. They don't have goal line technology. That's crazy. Don't forget VAR. They don't have goal line technology. And they're like, because the stadiums that are there, they don't have the money to do. Do you know how much money you have, FIFA? UEFA. Do you know how much money you have? You can't subsidize for that to happen. And it's this reluctance to help out the countries who are who don't have that economic base to be able to pump that message through. Even talk about George Floyd in the U.S. They have way more economic support when it comes to racial issues. In the leagues, forget the government. We're talking about the leagues, the NBA, tennis. Come on, man. Like, for me, it's getting to a point where, FIFA got called out for its fraudulent activities, which you've all known for decades. And now you have an opportunity after extending Blatter and for the other guy's suspension from FIFA. You have the audacity to just put up, Black Lives Matter for a little bit, and then you threaten that you're going to fine players for making a stand about Qatar. Just because it's coming out now. There are so many layers to this, and I agree. All I'll say is I agree with Henri. I echo that. They need to step up. It's high time that it happens. That it needs to happen, because you're not gonna stamp it out from the social media people. I mean, look what happened with Donald Trump and social media. There's no chance you're going to be able to stomp out that kind of level of free speech. But you can do it in your leagues, and you can do it in the stands. You can do it in the confines of what you control as a business.
Yeah.
You control the stadiums, you control the marketing, you control everything there, and yet and still, we're going to give a moment of silence for this. Oh, we're going to take a knee for this, and like, at what point does it end?
Yeah.
So that's my stance.
And for you, Kels?
I'd echo a lot of what Jeff said. I think they just got to make it financial. So I don't think the financial penalties really match the. I don't think the risks match the cause currently. I think they need to make examples of a couple of teams, and it's not just like, oh, you're gonna play without fans or whatever. It's like, it's not, we're gonna ban this one fan forever. It's like, we will make it so that, like, if we realize that it's systemic, we are gonna kick you out of the competition immediately, and so on and so forth. I think the penalties just have to get a lot higher, because right now I think it's a lot of it's like wearing a mask, right? It's like the V for Vendetta stuff, where it's like we're just wearing a mask, and then we find this team or this player like $10,000, but in the real scheme of things, the team is paying players like on average like $50,000 a week. The average player, what is $10,000 or a $50,000 fine to a team? So I think the penalties just have to get a lot bigger, and then the teams will make a larger effort to fall in line. And I think they need to be brave and just kick people out, because ultimately, I completely agree with Wilfred Zaha, and that's not just because I'm a low-key Arsenal fan and would like him on our squad and keep flirting with him every summer. But I do agree with that stance where it's like everybody comes out and we take a knee, and we know the players aren't. Well, we don't know, but from all indications, it seems like the players are basically on board, right? The issue is not really with the players. We just need like the repercussions to actually be there. So if the team has a banner saying like, NIGGA, you kick them out immediately from that competition. You kick them out right away. Or like the repercussions just have to be much larger. So that way, because as you said, as long as there was race, there will always be racism. So we're not ever going to get rid of it. What we cannot have, though, is a system where you have like people throwing bananas at people on the field, or and so on and so forth. Like Italy is crazy. Spain is not great either. Although Spain, they tend to only come up when it comes to international soccer and not local soccer. But I do think that, I do think the penalties just have to be a lot larger. They need to mirror the NBA. And this is one thing where the NBA has done really well in, where it's like at the first hint of anything racial at a systemic level, they take the most aggressive reaction to it. And as a result, like it's slowly getting less and less every year. And it's not just for blacks, it's like whether it's for Jews, even if it is for white people, whatever direction it's going, just have an equal no tolerance policy where you actually hit the team in their pockets. Because until you do that, it doesn't matter how many knees get taken. It doesn't matter how many minutes, how many seconds of silence get taken. It doesn't matter how many fists get raised. It's just not going to matter until like somebody is not making money as a result of the reactions of racism. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's true. Ayo, do you have anything to add to that?
I'll say, yeah, everything everybody has said, I echo all of that everything has been said. I'll just say in addition to that, in addition to the fact that I think the penalties need to be increased, I think the players need to force the hands of the authorities at times. Like walk out, like what happened with the PSG last season. I think that was PSG and Istanbul. No, this season, group stages. It was last year.
Yeah, that was in Champions League.
PSG and Istanbul, Başakşehir, where the Champions League, correct, and they walked out of the game. Those are the kind of things that need to be happening. If one person says, everybody walk away. Like the Rangers game should have been abandoned immediately, even if it's 10 seconds to go. Everybody walks out, Because like that, when that happens, this is do I look at it going back to what I said on the Sarcasm City podcast. I feel like it's a domino effect. That happens, it hits the brand of FIFA. The brand of FIFA gets hit, it becomes public. It becomes public, it affects, once it affects the brand, it affects the bottom line. Once it affects the bottom line, which is like money, adverts, because sponsors are like, oh, Nike, all the big, oh, we don't want to be part of this. Where like big racism and people are walking out and it becomes a blowout, ESPN, it becomes big stories all over the world. The money that goes to FIFA, UEFA, the authorities starts reducing. People start pulling out. Then they take it seriously. That's the only way this works. That's the only way. Like whole team walking out of games. Because once they see once their hands are forced, they're like, oh, okay. This is really serious. I think that's the only way. That's the only way. I agree with everything that I said. We don't need to get to that point. But I think at some point, things like that need to happen. The players need to all come together. It happens to one person. That happens to all of us. Everybody walk out. Coaches, this game is over. We're not playing this game again. Once something is done, we can reschedule for another time, but we're walking out. Everybody's going. That's what should be happening.
Yeah.
If I may, I would like
to say
I completely agree with that. Can you hear me?
Yeah, this is like slight lag with
Yeah,
he's all the way in Texas, man. So that it's traveling all the way there.
Don't worry about it. It's probably the Canadian infrastructure that's just late to it. So you're good.
I think that's what it is.
I completely agree with that because it's an automatic. Basically, how do you hit the bottom line the fastest? And I think like if you go back like I don't know if it's up to 5 years ago, but like 4 or 5 years ago, and Balotelli and Boateng were in Italy and doing the walkout thing, they were getting negative reviews. And so the PSG thing this year, where with both squads, well, PSG, I mean, it's Blacktown over there at PSG. So like both squads walking off, even though it was on the other team, I think that was significant. And the buzz it created globally from the social media perspective, the ref he's banned for I don't think it's like at least a year, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, and then they got to replay it, and it's just shining a light more on the impact than the dress rehearsal stuff. Like it's the dress rehearsal stuff that you can come up with as many banners and say no to racism. Like it doesn't. Everybody says no to racism publicly. It's all about the actions. So I completely agree with what Ayo said. I also agree with what Jeff said, obviously. But I do think it's a multi-pronged approach. But I think ultimately the players need to have enough confidence and support from their teammates. The teammates need to be allies to actually practice what they preach when they're kneeling before the game. Where somebody calls somebody the N-bomb, you all walk out. It's in the same way as if somebody calls somebody a spick or whatever it is, whatever racial derogation there is, everybody takes a united front and walks out because we just don't tolerate disrespect. And that's the only way to change it. I completely agree with it. And I think that's what the NBA players are really good at doing, and the organizations. And I think soccer just needs to mirror that from the top, but also from the players' initiative perspective. That was a lot of words, but it's a topic I'm passionate about.
Yeah, no, and to really just sort of I guess put it into perspective. We contrast with the NBA not because we're black, not because we're in North America. The contrast with the NBA is strictly that, a contrast. There is night and day in how things are being dealt with. And I think you nailed it. A part of what I said, which was missing that, which is the players' impact. If you look at what the players did during George Floyd, the players did. You had allies within. You had people coming out, saying, changing what they were saying, and they're like, "Oh yeah, no, this is bad." And then, even football with Drew Brees had to come and walk things back. It happened a couple non-black players in the NBA as well. But you had the players who were refusing to come back if you didn't deal with this, and how you come back with it, right? There's a Players Football Association. What are they doing? The PFA for NBA. Oh my goodness, man! The power that those guys wield. is unprecedented. Maybe they should do a UEFA PFA. Maybe they should maybe try that. Maybe try a FIFA PFA. Maybe that's where you can get the players to really feel the weight that they really do have on their shoulders. Everybody talked about during COVID, they should come out, they should wear masks in the stand. I'm like, yeah, sure, because they have the power. So why don't they do that when it comes to race? And just one last point about race in basketball and the contrast is that the coaches in the NBA came out and spoke. They had their own tops that they were going to wear. Mo ain't saying nothing. I ain't saying Conte ain't saying anything. Zizou, Ole, we can go through them all. I don't hear any of them saying anything. And that's
the Italian coaches are legitimately out there like, well, I didn't hear anybody call anybody NIGGA during the game. Like they had a banner. It's like it's you know what I'm saying? It's like it's not. It's
and the fact that they allowed a banner to go in, that's another thing. It's like really.
We've all been to games. How do you sneak a banner in? How do you sneak a banner in?
Hey man, they snuck a pig into our Classico. A pig's head into our Classico. I mean, it's the security, right? And they're probably just as racist as the people who are coming in, right? One last point on.
Go ahead. Sorry.
One last point about the NBA thing is that you said it. Either ban them or sell your team. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're not going to be a part of this, like they did with Sterling, sell your team or else get on board because we don't want you here. And that's the reality I think that needs to come in because there's a lot of billionaires trying to get into a soccer team and revitalize them and change them into the new best thing. Sell your team or get on board. They need to do more. 100% agree. Players, coaches, the organization, they need to target the bottom line. And if you don't target the bottom line of UEFA and FIFA, they need to target the bottom line of the teams themselves. That's where the problem is because they all buy into it. Look at this new UCL format. All these big name teams are buying into it. It's the same thing. It's money. Get in, get them where it hurts.
Yeah, no, definitely. Wow, you guys have definitely like kind of summarized everything, and like you said, it is what it is, and kind of echoing everything. I think the players need to be more involved, like you said, and I think people need to be become more responsible, whether it's fans, whether it's players walking out, and then that forces fans to start, watching out for people like that, in the stands, because who really wants to pay that ticket, plan your whole weekend to go see a game and then the game is cut short because some lunatic has to say something stupid. So I think that would, how like like you're on the street and then you see like a guy touch a girl, whether it's intentionally or physically, like hits a girl, how like every guy around rushes that one guy and just beats the guy up. That's what needs to happen with racism. Whereby it's in the stands is because I think it was in the States. I think it was in Texas not too long ago. What was it? The Asian lady that got
beat up, by the black guy.
And apparently the security guard just watched and did nothing. Apparently, there was a security guard that was like, I think it was in a store next door, and just like nearby and did nothing. And it's stuff like that actually pisses me off way more than the person who is being racist or who is in the act of racism. It's the person just standing there doing nothing. That's the part that really hurts me the most.
Martin Luther King said our biggest fear, our biggest problem in the fight against racism aren't the racists, are the people who are just sitting by as it happens up north.
Yeah,
that was the problem.
Yeah, so it is. But like we said, hopefully players can come together, fans can come together, and I'm happy to see that the likes of Thierry Henry and bigger names start speaking up and boycotting, the big platforms. Like let's say someone like Cristiano Ronaldo that has, 100 million followers on social media. Players like that also have the responsibility.
Yeah. Mbappe is doing it. Haaland is doing it. The next generation is doing it. So I think you had something to say about your Verizon connection. Go ahead.
I see my rising connection. So I was going to say when you said players, I agree. So for example, I remember the one incident I remember was Moise Kean in Juve. I think it was like 2 seasons ago when he got racially abused on the stands. And after it happened, was it Bonucci or the other guy? It was Bonucci, right? Or like that came out and I was like, oh, Moise Kean shouldn't have done that. He provoked the fans. They asked Allegri, the coach at the time. No, it was 2 seasons ago. Allegri, they asked him in press conference. Allegri was like, yeah, Moise Kean, pretty much saying it was Moise Kean's fault. I'm like, what?
Italy is trash.
I'm shortly after that's when they transferred him out.
Trash.
Yeah. So Cristiano was there. Cristiano didn't say anything. You know, the other just like acted like that never happened. So I was like, this is the same Juventus, right? Juve that Cristiano Ronaldo had that rape case, and they moved their whole preseason. They moved their whole preseason from the United States to a different continent to avoid him getting arrested. Even though they're like, there's clear documentation. There's clear documentation from like a disfigure report that has Cristiano Ronaldo admitting to his lawyer that he raped. Allegedly, I'll say allegedly since the public allegedly.
He paid her off millions.
But they moved their whole preseason.
He paid her off millions.
Yeah, I know.
That's an admission of guilt.
Correct. So the point I'm trying to make is Juve moved their whole preseason for that, but they didn't want to address innocent kid, 18, I think. Moise Kean was 18 or 19 at the time, being racially abused. They're trying to flip it and say he was on that. Yeah, they made it seem like he was the one who provoked the fans. That's when that's when I lost hope for Italy as a country.
And that's crazy, right? Because now Inter has the opportunity, having Lukaku as the center of this whole back and forth with international racism banter with Ibrahimovic and the world for some dumb reason. Inter has the opportunity now to not only overtake Juventus in the league in football, but overtake Juventus globally as a brand, right? There's there's so much change happening right now with racism that I agree with Kelechi. Say no to racism. That line died in April. Yeah, I'm sorry. That line, say no to racism means nothing. Like they're giving the captains that band. Like the other day when Cristiano Ronaldo didn't get the ball, didn't cross the line, and it wasn't VAR, he took off his band and threw it on the ground. Apparently, that band, having it on his arm, they're paying for a child for some like healthcare children who are struggling with certain debilitating diseases. And he threw it on the ground. Because it means nothing. Yeah. Like ultimately, what we're saying is that the passions that come out from the game override the base respect we have and should have for each other, and that's why you need to hit them in the pockets. That's the only way. You hit Cristiano image. That's why I do think Cristiano didn't say anything during that whole Moise Kean situation, because we hit him in his pocket. Because
he didn't even post and I'm wearing a Real Madrid jersey. I mean, I turn my camera on in a second so that everybody can see that again.
Real Madrid ain't Ronaldo. That's why he ain't coming back. Facts.
I'm about to put my Ronaldo bolster behind me, but I'm a Ronaldo fan. But I was very disappointed during the whole thing. They did not even post the black screen on June 2nd last year. He didn't even, because he is like not trying to let the stuff impact his bottom line. It's like we have to hit them at the bottom line, which is what I get back to. The players have to be more, agreeing with Ayo and then Jeff. Players have to be courageous. The whole system has to, they have to feel the impact. Let's be real, guys. Nobody makes any change unless they have to. It's very few people that make changes from a conscientious perspective. So, until we hit them at the bottom, which is what the Asians are really good at doing, the Indians are really good at doing, and the black players just need to start doing that. Henry, get off social media. Get off social media. I'm not promoting anything, because you are not supporting what I truly believe in and what you claim that you support outright, but don't actually want to put your dollars behind it. And so I think that's the bottom line. It's like until we get them at the bottom, the PSG thing I think it's a good turning point because it was very nice to see both teams walk off because Italy has been notorious. I listed the Balotelli examples. Moise Kean is a more recent example, which is even more poignant. And then you had the Boateng example.
Alba had issues when he was in Juventus as well.
Alba had issues.
Like your boy, you're the right back from Manchester United, Evra. He had problems when he went over to Juventus as well.
Yeah,
Dani Alves. Like, come on, man.
I think the one thing that was unique about the PSG game was that both teams walked off. All players on both teams walked off, and I would like to see more of that going forward.
Yeah.
And I would like to see it when it comes from the fans. In this case, it was from the officials, so I understand that they were even more incensed. But I would like to see it even when it comes from the fans, right? The Dani Alves game where somebody threw a banana at him when it was in Barca and he like picked it up, peeled it, ate it, and threw it away. I would like to see the entire field going forward just walk off. I feel like that's the only way. That's the only way. I'm not sure who said it, but it's like, yeah, you pay $400 for a ticket, you get there, and the game gets abandoned halfway through. It's a Champions League game. Your ticket's probably booked to exit tomorrow morning, and the game gets rescheduled for tomorrow evening. You're not going to move your ticket because that's a whole other couple of extra dollars. But it just needs to hit them. It just needs to hit everybody in their pockets for it to actually have any systemic type of effect. That's my opinion.
That's true. Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely. You know what? And this is something, we kind of kept along so that way we could actually have a conversation about this because I think a lot of times people mention it on their channels and just kind of breeze past it just to say that they did it. So it was nice that we could have a full conversation on this. But yeah, so like we said, hopefully things start getting better. Hopefully the PSG game, like we said, is the catalyst for better, like a stronger movement to happen with this. So